All right, we'll go ahead and call our Building and Finance meeting on May 11th at 7 p.m. And we will start our meeting. Are there any public comments?
No, ma'am.
Then we're going to move on to Dave and discuss some of our capital projects and our solar projects. So Dave, can we have you take it from there?
You can. All right, hold on a second. So if I look away from you here, if I get my packet up.
I can't get it.
All right. Currently, the field turf at the 3 schools are not starting. They're going to start on their originally scheduled time because of field turf's busy schedule. So we can't, they're going to try to start early as they can, but it sounds like they're going to start on the usual scheduled time that we had, which would have been first week of June when school would have been out. The running tracks at all 3 schools, they just started scraping stag. So stag is the only one that started. They scraped off the top 2 layers of the turf, or the track itself, I should say. And they're not going to finish that until the field turf is done, so they don't have damage the new track. The replacement of the East Gym windows at Sandburg will be started this Monday coming up, the 18th, I believe. That's when that starts. Baseball field renovations are already on their way. The dugouts are starting to get poured, some of the footing at Stag already. Sandburg has not started yet. They're going to get the locators out there and work on that. The LED retrofit, that has begun at all 3 schools, starting at Andrew first and then worked their way to Sandburg. They're deploying their crew as fast as their lights come in as far as where they're putting them at. The renovation for the roof, that got started this week at Stag because of a cancellation in the roofer's contract, or not contract, cancellation on the other roofer's work. And they were able to get on our roof earlier than expected, so that's nice. They're getting going on removing the damaged parts of the roof and then hopefully start pouring next week if all goes well. With a lot of rain coming up, it's hard to tell. The pool filter has not begun yet. That will start when IDPH gets the permits through, and we can. Currently, the crew is ready to go for that. Security camera, sounds like all of the schools are going to be pulled this week, and camera installation has already started. So that's good news. That's moving really fast. What else do we have left there? Solar panels for phase 1 of the solar panels. We were talking about the projects to start getting that ready to go soon, so we can either get it out to bid or move it on to our LED. What would they call that? Our spacing out on the name here, but currently who we have doing our LED contract for the schools, whether we want to give them the lighting contract also for the solar part. That's, I don't know if, did John send over any clips for this project or no? I don't know what John and I were going to talk about doing this. John Conley.
Yeah.
Not John Conley, John Lavelle.
This is Jim Gay. On a side note, John Lavelle got sick over the weekend pretty bad, so he's really unable to meet with us tonight. So we're going to try to do the best we can this meeting. We may have to, do some of the stuff pushed back or pushed to the next month's meeting.
I'm hoping it's not COVID-19 related.
No. Not that.
As far as the solar power goes, we were just going to talk about how it's better to get in now because we get more an additional rebates for a lot of things. So we're trying to push that forward to hopefully start that in October. It's supposed to be like a 3 or 4 phase project, so we're trying to get moving on phase 1 after the roofs are done. But it's nice to start talking about it now, so we see it coming in the future. Let me see what else was there. Cleaning at the school is still done daily. Each contractor that's in the school and or teachers that come into the school get a list of where they're at, and it gets sent out to the second shift maintenance people, and they go through and they clean and disinfect the areas that people have been into, which is good to know because students are supposedly coming in end of this week, I believe, to start picking up some other things. So we're going to keep on continually disinfecting and cleaning the areas that people are in since we've cleaned them already once.
Dave, can we go back to the solar panel?
Yes.
What you were saying there. So are we saying that we may be able to start on something as early as October?
Well, it depends on how the roofs go, but that was the original thought. If we get, we're hoping to get moving by October, because if we get it on this, the sooner we get in, the better, because then the rebates are locked in
Okay,
for this year. We don't have an exact date when we're planning on starting, but that was our initial thought, was hoping for October.
okay, thank you. Are there any other cleaning concerns that we have besides our second shift going to areas that have already, that have been newly exposed? Has there been any other, or are they just starting on their summer cleaning?
Yes. Summer cleaning has begun in areas where there is no construction at all the schools. But they're trying to schedule it. A lot of scheduling going on with the LED contractors in and out of the classrooms. We don't want to start something and have to do it twice. But as far as the disinfecting goes, that's being done daily. And we're trying to get as much summer stuff as we can done. So certain areas that are already done with the cameras or the LED lighting is done, they'll start doing their usual summer cleaning in those areas. Or areas that haven't had any construction, like the 600 building at Stagg, has already begun their summer cleaning too.
Okay, thank you. And was there anything else you wanted to share with us, or that pretty much took care of what was on the agenda?
I believe so. Doctor, did I miss anything?
Sure.
Anybody have any questions for Dave?
Sounds good.
Nope.
Then we'll go ahead and move on to finance, and I'm going to throw that to Dr. Gay, please.
Yes, Tara and I are gonna run over a couple of slides here. Well, when I say Tara and I mean Tara. So she's gonna do the first 2 pages with the first treasury report. Tara, could you do that first, please?
Sure. As you know, the last of the revenues came in from property taxes. That's the 2.2 million on the revenues. So revenues are lower than expenditures, but we're still sitting really well as far as our fund balance there, 96,275,909. The second half of the slide here is our year-to-date figures. So you can see, you know, our position is very good at this point. We are putting the finishing touches on the amended budget that'll be presented at the final board meeting. The next slide here is our dashboard for revenues. And again, you can see we're 94% of the projected. So that's looking really good at this point. And on our expenditures, again, we're running at like 80%, just shy of 80% on our actual expenditures to date. So that's looking really well here also.
The rest of the charts.
The rest of it are all the slides that everyone can just look at on their own. They're pretty self-explanatory. It goes by all the funds and such else throughout here. And we scroll down to the Pma Investments that everybody's familiar with on page, here we go.
Is that the
I know
current
it's
portfolio?
scanned a little crooked. Here's the our portfolio. This is in the short-term investments at PMA. We're running 138 days out on our investments at a 0.937% yield. So the yield has dropped over what it's been over the past year and a half or so. But as you can see, we've got some more invested again with the new tax money we received, and it's holding its own at this point. Again, we've got our building and finance dashboard here. This is the long-term investments. It's holding pretty well here. Our yield, our inception to date yield is still at 5.48. So that's still holding relatively strong in the long term, which is obviously what this is all about. And so that wraps up. This is just another version of that same information showing the maturities, how much is invested in which accounts and such else. And then our Fifth Third, this is a small security we have over at Fifth Third. And there was nothing that matured here, so there's no income on this for this month due to that.
So overall, with everything that's going on with, you know, the governor guidelines that changing pretty much daily, the ISB guidelines, we're holding our own very well. You know, what we have to watch is for, we have no idea yet. I was on a meeting this morning. I know this is not Mrs. Dalton, if you don't mind, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. It's kind of the state finance area. But you know, there's still a lot of questions, a lot of questions that came out today about when and if on-site learning will take place. Clearly not in the summer. They're talking sometime in the fall. They're not giving us a date at this point. So that, you know, the state, I don't know if you saw the governor today speak, but one of the questions was, is he going to call the General Assembly in for a budget that is due end of May? And so not a clear answer yet, but it does affect not just schools, but I'm focused on the schools. It does affect a lot where, when, and if the budget will be passed by the state, what kind of budget is going to pass by the state, evidence-based funding model, how that's going to come to us. So, you know, it can again continue to be conservative, even with some of the things we're looking at for next year. Just not taking away from the students, but just kind of being more conservative on any kind of spending until we're confident of the state finances.
Bottom of here. We've got background, but we have no.
Tony, was there anything missing on the Fifth Third or the portfolio, Tony Saratori?
Yeah. I mean, the only other thing that I would add is that even though the yields are low, the yields are positive, which, you know, if anybody else looks at your 401k, they're probably not positive, and they may be down a lot.
Yeah.
So, you know, the conservative nature of what we have, which is basically what we're required to keep, because we can only invest in pretty much safe securities and CDs. So it doesn't give us a normally very large return, but on the other hand, it keeps us safe in situations like this. So, you know, positive is better than nothing at all.
Exactly. And I think that's some of the board direction the last couple of years to watch that. You know, we've gotten better yield than we had in the past, but to be conservative with that as well. But like you said, it's better than not having any. Remember, in the past, we got no interest.
Yeah, I've got a question for. I'm sorry. I have a question for next year's budget. You know, with all the unemployment, the real estate tax revenue, I would assume, will be impacted for next year, correct? If they can't be paid.
Real estate?
Yeah, real estate. Yep.
Yes.
Well, yeah, but what did we get so far, Tara? What did we get our first?
We received our 48% of our first installment, which is normal at this point. You know, we've got everything slated to have been received up to through this point. The second half, so far speculation is coming in. We normally receive 98% of our total taxes, and through the other IASBO professionals and everything, they're estimating that may drop down to a 93, 94%. So until things actually progress, we won't know if it's going to be worse than that, because we can't anticipate what everyone's doing. Most mortgages are held at finance companies, so that's in your escrow, and so those finance companies are going to pay the property taxes.
Right.
So we're hoping it's going to be minimal effect on us at that. But again, we won't know until it actually occurs. We have no way of projecting what the future is going to hold.
Do we have any projections what happened like in 2008 and 9 and 10?
I have not gone back and looked up any of that at this point. I can, we only just came on Skyward in 09, no, when did we come on Skyward? 08 or so is when we came on Skyward. So I don't know if I'll have that information. I'll give it a shot and look though.
Yeah, just to project outwards, it's, you know, past
Sure.
history. You know, that was unemployment about 10%, and we're at like 14, 15% now.
And we were pretty okay at that time because
Yeah.
because
And
the
that-
property. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd
Yeah,
be a
Fred,
tough.
that's what I was going to say was Jim, Tony, and I were here for those years,
Yeah.
and we kept a sharp eye on how was this going to happen with all there were a lot of foreclosures going
Right.
on at that particular time. And, there was an impact, but nothing dramatic where, a third of our revenue went away or anything like that. There was nothing substantial, just more bumps in the road because, we would have remembered if it was something
Yeah. Definitely.
serious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah.
And
Also,
Tara, I need to ask a question on the flip side of that. I would like in the next, coming weeks or months, nothing right away, but there have to be some expenses that are no longer occurring. So we talk a lot about ongoing expenses while we're down. I imagine that there are some expenses that have gone away. Again, maybe it's too early to tell, but at some point in time, maybe over the summer, June and July, I'd like to get an idea as to expenses that stopped because of what happened. It's not as much as normal businesses, but I was just curious about that.
Yeah, our big on that thing, Pat. Our biggest expenses, payroll and benefits, and that continued
Yeah.
Right.
That's,
by guidance from or executive order.
yeah.
can I make one
And I
comment?
wanted to,
Well, with nobody in the building, I think our heating might be less,
Oh yeah,
our
yeah.
electrical might be less.
Mm.
Lots of little things. So maybe some outsourced contracting, like garbage pickup, is less. Things like that.
food costs.
All those things added up might be something.
Yep, I agree. And Tara, we can talk to Dave, John, and the other John Conley there too, and we can work on some of that.
Okay.
Yeah, no hurry. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I wanted to go
Yeah.
back to the
Taking
point that
notes.
we were making on the real estate taxes. And I agree with Pat, we were fine, a few years ago when we were going through all that problem. The concern I have now, though, more than actually family, family units, is the businesses. And how many of those businesses may not reopen, and how much of that tax revenue might, real estate taxes might we lose on those businesses? That would be my bigger concern than the individual, family home property taxes.
Hey, Tony, as you remember, and I know, 2008, the Fed guidance was a lot different in the banking world than it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we are working with borrowers to defer payments, actually hold back,
Right.
loans, and we're being allowed to do that. We weren't, and that crushed the banking industry as well. So I think, at least, depending on the timeline of everything right now, it's possible everything could work out.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, Mike, and I do agree with you. But the other concern I have, and I mean, this is what I'm seeing, is we have a number of businesses that are asking to defer on their loans, and we've done about 350 PPP loans. And those loans are great because they're helping the business out for 2 months. But if those businesses don't open in 2 months, there's no revenue, and that money was 75% to pay payroll. So that remaining 25% isn't going to allow them to stay open. So, I mean, I agree with you. It may not be as bad, but it's still a concern to me that, potentially, there could be issues. Although Mayor Peacock said he's going to open up Orland before everybody else, so
Yeah.
good for him, and I hope he follows through with it.
Well, it's going to open at the end of the month, I hear.
Well, I hope he does. Good,
Yeah.
good for him.
It was on the news that Orland Square is opening up June 1st.
Well, then maybe he's going to save us.
I'll buy the beers.
I will too, and I normally don't drink, so that's a big one.
So are there any other questions before we go to the bond sale?
I think just wanted to add one more thing to Tony's line of thinking. It'll be interesting to see if commercial property values dip because now their income tied to the value of those properties. So we may see some more challenges going forward. Probably not affect next year, but it'll be the following year. That we would
It could be
start
2
seeing.
years out, yeah.
So something to keep on our radar.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyone else have anything else to add to this conversation?
That was the
Then-
question I was wondering about, was the real estate taxes.
Yeah. So then we'll go back to the bond sale results. Dr. Gay, do you want to handle that, please?
Perfect. I was talking to John a little bit before this, and as you can see in the document, and Tara's going to jump in on this, probably more so than me, it went very well. Tara, you wanted to share how the results went and what was the expected outcome?
Sure. The bond sale occurred on May 5th. It was a very positive outcome. We achieved par at the $23,190,000 with our proceeds. Our net proceeds will be $22,900,000 after all of the
Fees?
fees. We paid 5 basis points, which actually amounted to a $50,000 savings. And our total cost, the underwriting costs and fees, ended up dramatically less than what we anticipated. Of the $1,089,000, we ended up at $378,360. So that was a significant savings for us overall on them. And the final documents will be completed by the 21st and filed with the county clerk by the 28th, with closing on the June 1st. So we'll get those monies deposited in this fiscal year, and that's why we will have the amended budget completed to be presented for final approval
Yeah, it was
at
a great-
this
it was a
month's
great-
meeting.
It was a great sale.
Does anybody have any questions for Tara on the bond sale?
And thank you for saying questions for Tara.
Thank
Tara,
you.
I did have one question. What is,
Yes, sir.
what is the term of the bond? Because there's a call date in there, 2027, but there's no, what is the maturity
The
date?
bonds go out to 10 years according to the schedule we
Okay.
received, but they begin to become callable at the 7 years, which means someone could purchase them to restructure and have them out. But it's a 10-year is the projected payment term to
Okay,
pay them off.
that's fine. All right. I just wasn't sure how long we were going out with it. So thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Tara. We're going to move on then to the insurance committee minutes, and I'll throw that to Tony, and then Pat, you can join in
Thank you.
on that.
Okay. So Pat, you can chime in whenever you want. But basically the committee met in April, and the basis of the committee is to review all of our insurance plans. And I think the good news out of this meeting was that the cost of the insurance is going to only go up about 3% next year, which is not bad, considering that in the past few years it's been much higher because the expected claims have run well above what we had anticipated. And as you can see from the minutes here, most of our claims, were at or near what the expected amount were. Most of them, and some were below. Especially, well, dental was a little above, but the medical was below, and last year medical was way above the expected claim cost. So that was pretty much it, to summarize it. And the other thing was the virtual visits have gone up. That's a pretty significant increase. I think 6% since we've only been doing this for a couple of years now, and now you've got 22% of the people using this plan. So I think that's pretty significant at this point. Pat, anything else?
No, actually, a couple things, but you did a real nice job of summarizing some of the key points. I think the big thing is, our expected medical is running at 97%. We're thinking that's going to be a little bit low, not in a bad way, but we're still going to be pretty much on target of the expected, because there have been some delays on some elective procedures, et cetera, which are probably only going to happen, delay even more until we open fully up in the state. So 97% of expected doesn't really count any of the pandemic situations of the delaying of any elective procedures. So at 97% is a pretty good number. We expect that number to continue to be under 100%, but eventually kind of catch up. But we're within the margin of error, which is good. Dental's running a little higher, but dental isn't a significant portion of the claims that we pay. A couple of notes on pharmacy drugs, 29% increase. I'm sorry, a third of the claims are for pharmaceuticals, and part of that is because they're increasing due to specialty drugs, but it's not like people are taking different drugs or more drugs. It's that specialty drugs are being redefined, or drugs are being redefined into the specialty category. So half of our prescription claims now are quote unquote specialty drugs. And of course, we reported the PCORI fees were reinstated last year, which I don't remember what that meant. So the 10% increase of telemedicine, like Tony said, is good, but we're going to see that number go up a lot because people are using it more during COVID-19, and I think people are going to get more comfortable with it and continue to use it, and that's a cost savings for everybody because the charge to go to the telemedicine is less than going for an office visit. So I expect that to be a nice, increase in addition to the 10% we already have. I think it's going to go up even further going forward. A couple of miscellaneous things on flexible spending and whatnot, and like Tony said, looking at an increase of about 3%, which is pretty good. It kind of goes along with medical inflation, and medical inflation, I think with the exception of college tuition, is the highest marker inflation from year to year, more so than the consumer price index or other types of inflationary guidance. So 3% on medical is really good nowadays. So if that comes to fruition, I think everybody will be pretty happy. And our next meeting is in the fall. Any questions, comments, and concerns for me?
Thank you, Pat. I appreciate it. Thank you, Tony. We'll move on. We don't have any transportation reports, so we can.
I wish I did.
And so that brings us into some of our bids. The first bid that we have is the fall sports and trainer supply bid.
Yeah, I just want to explain this real quickly. There's 3 bids, and this bid is these next 3 are annual bids. For the fall and sport, what this is that it gives us the lowest price. Doesn't mean we're going to spend all that. Doesn't mean we're going to use all that. Doesn't mean we're going to buy them now. But when we go out to buy the events, different things you'll see if it's the swim zone or whatever the case may be, we go to that sporting store and we are guaranteed that lowest price. So for the fall, whatever the sports are, you see that for fall, winter, and spring. And it's just an annual bid, so we guarantee the lowest prices on, like if it's for soccer balls or swim equipment, footballs, whatever that case may be. So it's just it's good to have. We know that we won't go get costs higher than that, and it's at $33,000, which is less than the last couple of years, as you can see.
Okay, great. Any questions on that
sorry.
bid?
Same with the office supplies. So it's we go Warehouse Direct, which is, I think everyone in line here would say we like Warehouse Direct. And again, it just gives us, when we do have to order things, we get it from Warehouse Direct. We get the cheapest prices, and we only order when we need. And we're holding off on a lot of things right now, but when we have to, we know we go to Warehouse Direct. They deliver quickly, and I think business office and the principals would agree that they're a good company to work with.
Do we think that when we're done with next year's numbers for office supplies, that it's going to be lower than just because we are now learning to not utilize as much paper? That might be something John Conley was telling us about.
Yeah, I agree. That will tie in with the next bid as well. The paper, you see, it's by color by white and all that. Yeah, I mean, I think with the warehouse direct, again, if depending if we're not on site, but with students, we may be on site with staff in the buildings, but we're not sure when on site for students, which will directly affect the bond paper bid. Again, it just gives us the cheapest price for paper when we have to buy it.
Any questions on any of these three bids? Any questions overall on what's going on with, through our, that would be connected to the Building and Finance Committee at this time? Do any of our committee members have any questions?
Nope.
What we would like to do is see if everyone was okay, and we'll just kind of poll who's here right now, if we did our next Building and Finance meeting, which is scheduled for June 15th, if we were to conduct that at 6 o'clock instead of 7 o'clock, would that be conducive for everyone?
I'm good.
Yes.
Yep, that's fine.
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 Good.
Okay,
What date is that, Sue? June what?
so that's Monday, June 15th,
Okay.
and we'll
So
move
Monday,
that-
June 15th at 6 p.m.
Correct.
I like it. That's all we have, Ms. Dalton.
And I just want to thank everyone for logging in and being a part of this. And we do appreciate your questions and comments. And just everyone to please stay healthy and safe out there, so we can get through this and get back to things a little bit more normally than having to zoom in. But thank you so much. And we'll see you then on June 15th.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
Sue.